Welcome to Talk South Asian to me. My name is Michelle.
And my name is Anusha. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central and hear us react to each other's stories about mental health and growing up in different South Asian households.
And remember, this podcast is not therapy. Engage with what feels entertaining and resonates with you and leave what doesn't. Yay.
All right. Are we ready for today's episode title reveal?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, so today we're at T. T for, drumroll please, time management.
Woo. Time management.
Yeah, so today is going to be a little bit different. Typically we're very much on the mental health topic side. Today's a little bit more skills and strategies with a sprinkling and dashes of its relation to mental health.
Yeah, that makes
We're going
sense.
to keep it on the lighter
Kind of
side
like,
today.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's been heavy for a little bit, so I like this.
A little change of pace.
Right.
So today, before we get started, I just wanted to share a little bit of news. Are you ready?
Ooh, news.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Guess what?
What?
Michelle?
What?
On October 15th, we hit 100
Yay!
followers.
Oh my gosh. Oh yes. I like when you texted me, I was like, oh my gosh. I can't believe we reached the triple digits. Woo!
I know. Triple
Thank
digits. High five.
Yes.
Killing it.
High five. High five. And thank you to all of our supporters. We
And our
appreciate you.
listeners, we appreciate you. And we're so glad that you're listening and following along because this is educational and empowering, but this is also kind of, at least for me, and I think also for Michelle, very healing for us to be able to talk about these things and share. So thanks for coming along for the journey.
Yes, and it's a lot for us to be like vulnerable too. So we appreciate our listeners and supporters for listening to us and listening to our vulnerabilities and what we're putting out there.
Definitely.
We have to celebrate.
I know.
We talked about it. We need to celebrate. We should get
We
like
should
cake.
celebrate. Ooh. And then like virtually kind of like feed and
Right?
eat. I love that. All right, we need to make a plan for it at our, I don't know, X amount of episode number. We should plan for like a whole cake thing. I'm down for this. We should do this.
I'm down too. Let's do
Mark it in your calendar.
Okay. Done.
All right. So back to our topic, time management.
Okay.
I thought, I mean, it sounds easy enough, right? Time management, managing of time. But I'm going to go ahead and define it anyway. Time management is the process of planning and exercising your conscious control of the time spent on specific activities, especially as it relates to increasing your effectiveness, your efficiency, and your productivity. Straightforward.
Yeah. Straightforward.
Yeah. So I'm actually really excited to talk about today's topic because time management is something that I have, you'll hear in the story, it's something I've always struggled with. But as of late, I've been educating myself on this. So I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about it. I didn't know that you've been like educating yourself about it. That's awesome.
I have, yeah. So as a part of me educating myself, there were these three content creators, particularly content creators who focused on like productivity and like time management skills already. I've watched those three content creators and their videos before, and I think those are the ones that really stood out to me and I thought summarized it really, really well. So those are the people I'll quote today. And I want to start with Jasmine, who she goes by Study Quill on YouTube.
Okay.
And I'll talk about her video and like her content first. So Jasmine had this quote, and I don't know if Jasmine came up with this. I don't know if she read it somewhere, but this quote really, really, really resonated with me. And I might have even like texted you about it when I was looking at this video because I'm pretty sure I told everybody. So here's the quote. She goes to say that if you pack a suitcase by throwing things in it, just kind of like throwing stuff in and not really folding, just throwing things in, less stuff is going to fit.
Right.
But if you neatly arrange it, whatever that method is, the roll-up method or just like properly folded and like neatly tucked using those, the packing cubes, whatever method of like neatly arranging it, more stuff will fit.
Mm-hmm.
That concept is basically time management. If you try to just
Mm,
like not have structure and you're just like, oh, well, all of these things exist, I need to do all of these things, you're not going to fit as much in your time in your day.
right.
But if you try to arrange it, plan for it a little bit, and like neatly place things around and organize, you're going
Mm-hmm.
to fit more stuff into your day.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I do remember you telling me this. I do remember you saying that you had like a planner and you wrote things down to like
Hmm.
organize your time. It's a great
Yeah.
analogy.
It really is. And like, I think it really like illustrates something that feels a little elusive,
Mm-hmm.
time management. I feel like it's not just elusive for me. I'm sure a lot of, maybe listeners and people can also relate to that. Because a lot of people struggle with that, the same kind of procrastinators or,
Mm-hmm.
just it's not really a skill that's taught well.
Right.
Yeah. So some of the, things that Jasmine goes on to say can be summarized into 4 things.
Okay.
And the 4 steps are reduce, prioritize, plan, and execute. And I'll talk about each of those.
Okay.
So first, she talks about reduce, which basically is a question of, do I need this? She talks about the importance of like sometimes we try to be a little bit too perfectionist about things and like want to do
Right.
all of the things or go above and beyond. And she talks about like, maybe you don't really need that. Maybe you can just do exactly enough for what you need. For example,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you want a B on the test to get an A in that semester overall. Okay, so just do B
Mm-hmm.
material for the exam. You don't need to go above and beyond
Right.
A plus. Like
Right.
basically that's the concept of like do just what you need. Don't try to go above and beyond and let go of this all or nothing mindset. Yeah, which can be really sneaky. I've noticed. I never thought I had an all or
Yeah.
nothing mindset until I started exploring some of my some of my stuff, and I was like, "Oh wow, that really like sneaks up on you." So
It
I've been
does.
practicing this new thing. I have a new like motto. It's the always
Okay.
something. I love it. Simple.
Always something.
Mm-hmm. Which is
Okay.
the exact antidote to the all or nothing thinking, right? It's either I'm going to create this perfect episode, the perfect post, the perfect project, or otherwise I just need more time. I just need to plan it. I'm not ready to write it out. I'm not ready to do the thing. Whereas the always something mindset is, okay, maybe you don't have enough time to make that vision come like to fruition just yet. And maybe you can just start. Maybe just write the first
Okay.
paragraph of what you want to do. Maybe just write the skeleton of what you want to flesh out later.
Right.
Yeah,
Always something. I like that.
always something. Yeah. This is what I've been using at the gym actually. On the
Nice.
days that I don't want to go to the gym, I'm just like, you know what? Show up. Go for 15 minutes. Usually
Right.
it's like the foot in the door, right? Once you're there, you just
Right.
want to stay and like, all right, I can do more.
Yeah. I like
It's
that
that
mindset.
initial
I
push.
definitely feel like I have the all or nothing too.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I like
Yeah, it sneaks up on
always
you.
something. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So that's the reduce.
Okay.
Ask yourself, do I need this? If you don't, reduce how much you are doing to just enough of what you need.
Okay.
The second step she talks about is prioritize. So the
Mm-hmm.
question of like, figure out what is the most important thing. Now I forgot what this is called, but there's this, like, imagine a box with
Mm-hmm.
4 squares.
Okay.
So she talks about there's this principle, and then she modified this principle, and I totally forgot what the principle is. I forgot to jot it down. But essentially, she breaks it down in how to prioritize it with the first part of that box is this is urgent and it's really
Mm-hmm.
hard. That's the thing that you need to be doing first. The thing that's urgent and easy, you can do that next.
Okay.
The thing that's not as urgent but hard, do that third. The thing that's not as urgent and it's easy, do that last.
Mm. Another way
Um,
to look at prioritization.
yeah,
I like that.
which I think makes a lot of sense because, when it's harder, we might need more time, but if we're putting it off, we might feel like we're not doing our best or we're like really crunched for time.
Mm-hmm.
But we tend to gravitate towards the easier things, I think, generally speaking.
Yeah, me too. I do the same thing.
Yeah. But this kind of puts into perspective of like, maybe this is helpful to recognize maybe the thing that's urgent and is a harder thing, just start with that. And don't
Mm-hmm.
try to maybe finish it all. Don't try to be perfect with it. You know, always something. Just get started on it.
Right.
Yeah. The other piece of the prioritize step is she talks about the importance of maybe setting like interim deadlines for like really big projects.
Mm-hmm.
That way you can have goals to accomplish instead of, oh, it's not due until the end of the year. I have time, which will just lead to like
Mm-hmm.
procrastination right
Mm,
before it's
magic
due.
word.
Yeah.
Procrastination.
Exactly. Which I think is actually a really helpful tool because that's definitely me. I'm a big procrastinator.
Yeah,
I'll write
me
down
too.
something I need to do, but then not set like a specific time to do it. Or I'll just be like, oh, I'll do it today. I'll never get around to
Mm-hmm.
it. I didn't set aside time for it. I didn't give myself a goal to accomplish a certain thing. And then it just gets
Right.
pushed back.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty important one. Set interim deadlines, even if they're fake deadlines, just for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got reduce, we've got prioritize. The third one is plan. This one was basically like, when should I do this? She talks about exactly what I just said, the difficulty of not like just saying, oh yeah, I'm going to do it, but not having a concrete plan. She talks about like schedule in tasks to do daily, to do weekly, and to do monthly. And
Yeah.
set aside like a start and end time. Give yourself a specific start and end time. And, you know, follow up to that, tying it back to that always something mindset. That way, even if you don't finish, that's okay. You've gotten a
Yeah.
certain amount of time. You've done what you needed to do. You don't need it to be perfect. You don't need to have finished it. Just get
Right.
that piece done.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a hard thing for me to break, though. I've always been
Yeah,
like that, very one track. If I am doing something, I'm going to sit
I
there.
gotta stick
I'm
with
not going to
it.
eat. I'm not
Yeah.
going to drink anything. I'm just going to finish. Yeah, that's not
Yeah,
helpful,
you
though.
gotta stick with it. Yeah. I want that affects your productivity too, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's really not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she also talks about maybe the helpfulness of batching together small tasks,
Mm-hmm.
like lots of little things. You can put them all together and then block off time for all the little things.
Gotcha.
And then she also talks about like, hey, if you do finish prior to the allocated time, like let's say you
Mm,
set from 3 o'clock to 5 p.m., I'm going to create a bunch of posts, and you had a goal of 5 posts that you were going to create. If you're done at like 4:30, she says, don't try to do more work. Just let yourself enjoy. Like, let that be a reward that you get to just rest, enjoy, relax, do something fun
yeah.
for
Yeah.
being so
Like
productive.
it. Right.
Positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Mm. And the last tip she says for the planning stage is be careful with analysis paralysis. Basically, you know, overdoing it on the planning and like spending
Mm,
too much time trying to have the perfect plan and not enough
mm,
just getting in there, getting your hands dirty and just doing it.
right. I'm guilty
Yeah.
of that for
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so far what did we have? We had reduce, prioritize, plan, and the last piece is the execution.
sure. Mm-hmm.
So basically execution is, you know, how do I get it done? For this step, Jasmine talks about avoiding procrastination.
Right.
That's a big one. And she talks about things that might be helpful for avoiding procrastination is to have like an outside accountability, like an accountability partner, a buddy to
Mm-hmm.
keep you on the straight.
Yeah.
Um, Also, this is something new that's been coming up with a lot of my clients, maybe having some apps handy that like really lock your phone down so that you're not tempted to open social media, you're not tempted
Right.
to, I don't know, maybe read on a Kindle app, whatever it is that you do,
Yeah.
procrastinate. um, the other thing she talks about that might help with the procrastination is the 2-minute rule. So she talks about how procrastination tends to stem from you thinking about and avoiding the discomfort of doing the task.
Mm,
So you're just stuck in that phase of, oh, but it's going to be so uncomfortable. And like, oh, like, I don't really want to do it. This is just, I'd rather do this. And so she
Yeah.
talks about you're just so stuck rather than not doing and then enjoying something else. You're just so stuck in that state. Follow the
Hmm.
2-minute rule, which is basically, getting that buy-in, the foot in the door, where you work for a couple of minutes. And if you still really just cannot concentrate, really just don't want to do it, fine. Go take a break, come back, try again for 2 minutes and see where you're at.
Yeah. I like
2 minutes feels a little less, though. I feel like I'd get literally nothing done in 2 minutes.
that.
So maybe
Yeah.
5 to 10 feels like a low risk still.
Right.
Yeah. The last two things she talks about in terms of avoiding procrastination are, one, to create more efficient systems in place. So, for
Mm.
example, she is a content creator. So she talks about how every once in a while she will spend 30 minutes or an hour every random weekend to learn specific skills on how to edit bulk things so that it just makes it easier for her. And she'll just memorize
Okay.
these like cool tips and tricks. So, obviously, not all of us are content creators, so that exact thing won't work, but like that idea of how can I make my life easier and like streamline it,
Right.
like doing a little bit of that um, heavy lifting on a random weekend just to kind of help understand how you can make your life more
Yeah.
sustainable,
Efficient.
efficient, smoother. Just like, watching this video. I spent like
Right.
20 minutes doing it and it made my life easier by a little. And the last thing she talks about in avoiding procrastination is to just take breaks. Yeah. Okay, pop quiz. What were the four,
Okay.
Michelle?
Quiz time. Reduce,
Yes.
prioritize,
Ding ding.
plan, and execute.
Amazing. Ooh, 4 out of 4. Killing it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. So the second one that I want to talk to you real fast about is by another content creator. He does a lot of like
Okay.
productivity topics. His name is Ali Abdal, and he is a self-proclaimed reader of all the productivity and time management books that have come out
Okay.
over the last like 10 years and more.
Yeah.
That's what he starts his video with. So clearly he knows what he's talking about.
Hmm.
And I'm going to go through and like talk about some of the like the tips and like things he's learned and share that.
Hmm.
So in the video, he talks about the very first thing he says. And again, this was very like impactful for me too, I think, is recognizing you do have time
Hmm.
and you have control over your time. And I say that like that because, have you, like, I don't know about you, but I've done this. Have you ever said, I don't have time for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to say that all the time. I don't have time for it. I don't have time for it. I don't have time for it. And like people older and wiser than me back then used to be like, you do have time for it. You just need to make time for it. And I used to be like, you don't know, my life is so busy. But it's so true, Ali is right. Saying I don't have time is not necessarily a true statement. It's really not. Time is, I guess we can think about it like this. It is finite. There's only 24 hours in a day. True.
Hmm.
But what you are doing in that 24 hours is within your control. And generally speaking, at any given moment, we are doing the thing that we most want to do,
Hmm.
right? If you're goofing
Right.
off and like, just kind of mindlessly scrolling through TikTok or Insta, like
Yeah.
you might not want to do that, but enough of you at any given moment wants to do that.
Right.
So you are doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like just kind of hearing that for a moment just kind of like blew my mind of like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. It's a little bit empowering to be like, yeah, so my bad decisions are technically on me, but that's okay sometimes.
Yeah.
um, he then goes on to talk about this one book called Hell Yeah or No, What's Worth Doing by Derek Rivers.
Okay.
I don't remember if it was Derek Rivers or Derek Sivers now. I'm sorry, but it's that book, Hell Yeah or No,
Okay.
What's Worth Doing. And basically the thing he talks about in particular is um, Derek says that when you have more opportunities than you have time available to do, then you should really start focusing on the things that like fill you up and get you super excited, super pumped, where you're like, hell yeah, I want to do it. If you start thinking, maybe, I don't know, that's a no.
Yeah.
So say
Okay.
no to those opportunities. But Ali does, specify like when you're a little bit younger, when you have more time, when you don't have as many opportunities, yeah, just say yeah, and like, no harm, no foul. But when you
Right.
have a lot of things and not enough time to do all of those things, that's when you should be selective, especially. That makes sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Reduce.
Exactly. Oh, look at you applying all the things you learn.
Yes.
You're such a good student, even after not
Thank
being a
you.
student for so long.
Thank you.
Impressed. um, Ali also talks about a different book. It's called Make Time. And in this one, I didn't quite catch the author in this one. I didn't look it up. But if you want to
Yeah.
know, Google it. Make Time. That's what the book is called.
Make time. Okay.
And in this one, the primary thing that he highlights is this thing called daily highlight. So basically what that is that you focus on at least one thing that you get done that day. That is your daily highlight. Um, and your daily highlight should be chosen particularly because that's the thing that you're going to feel really good about and really accomplished if you finish it. So usually it's the thing that's like the most urgent or generally most satisfying to complete. Yeah. And obviously, most of us have a lot of things to do. One thing is just not enough to do once a day. But it's like the most important thing that even if life gets in the way and like you just can't do everything on your list, like this is the thing that was going to make you feel good. Like, oh, thank God I did that. Yeah. Yeah. Look at you. 10 points to Ravenclaw. I think you'd be a Ravenclaw. The next tip he gives is a pretty self-explanatory one. Make a to-do list. Write it out. Don't try to keep it in your head. Just put it pen to paper, put it in your phone, write it somewhere.
That's a big one. I feel like when I'm like scrambling, figuring I'm like have 10 different things, I get stuck in that sometimes. But when I write a to-do list, it helps me like simmer. I'm like, okay, we don't have to remember everything. It's written down.
Exactly. There's something satisfying and like less anxious-y about seeing it written rather than trying to keep it all up here of like, oh, what does all this stuff have to do? Plus, our short-term memory can only hold 7 things at a time.
Right.
It's just better to write it down, guys. Write it down. Yeah. The other thing that Ali talks about, another tip, is time blocking. Now, this one is a really big one, actually, that I have read everywhere in relation to time management, time blocking. So basically what this means is have a calendar, Google Calendar, the Outlook calendar, whatever calendar, planner, whatever you do, have a calendar and block off times for anything and everything that you need to do. Whether that is, like working out, whether that's meal prepping, house chores, whether that's focus time to do certain work, maybe even like call family, call friends, whatever it is that you need to do, including like your nighttime routines, your hobby time, TV time. Just put them all, block them off. That way you know exactly what is happening and how much time you have before you need to just move on.
Right.
And the reason this is talked about by like literally everybody when it comes to time management is this law called Parkinson's law. And the law basically what the law states is that work expands to fill the time that we give to it. Take procrastination, for example, right? When I tend to procrastinate, I say, yeah, I have until the end of the day. For example, today's podcast episode, I do not mind telling you that I sort of procrastinated on some of the research because I felt so confident. So I was like, I have until the end of the day to get my, episode story and my research. I can totally do that. And the beginning part, maybe like a good hour and a half, I spent doom scrolling on my phone and then answering messages. Still productive, but not the right kind of productive, But if I had just said, I don't have until the end of the day. I want to get this done in 2 hours between the hours of 1 to 3. It would have been done.
Yeah.
Instead, I wasted a bunch of time when I actually had a lot on my to-do list today. Yeah. So
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
the work expands to fill the time that we give to it, and it feeds into our
Right.
procrastination tendencies. So while you might not think you'll finish everything, just give yourself an ample amount of time, but then
Mm-hmm.
just stick to that time. And if you don't get it done, always something mindset. You don't need to get it done. Try again the next day. This is how you build
Yeah.
that habit of getting things done in the time that you give it to, to
Right.
get it done.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And this also kind of feeds into the other thing that we talked about with Jasmine's video, which was you need to be able to leverage these artificial deadlines that will help too, so you don't procrastinate, so
Right.
you don't fall into that trap of
Yeah.
the work expanding to fill all that time.
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Okay. Last couple of tips here. The third to last one is called protected time. Now, protected time is the time where you do what you want to do. And that could be things that move you towards your career goals. That could be moving you towards your personal growth. Or that could just be just literally having fun, having downtime.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a fun skincare. Maybe you have a fun reading time at the end of the night. Maybe you want to watch TV at the end of the night. Whatever it is, it's
Mm-hmm.
protected time. It is just for you. Nobody can come in between it.
Right. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, for example, like when I went to therapy or in anybody going to therapy, that's technically protected time for the most
Yeah,
part.
it is.
You don't, like if you're seeing your therapist like in the middle of the day or at the end of the workday, you typically don't try to keep rescheduling that. Typically
Right.
you try to stick to a consistent schedule, right? That's your protected
Mm-hmm.
time. That's an example of that.
Yeah.
But why do we only do it for meetings? We can do it for things that are, for our benefit or for our fun too.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. Like in the morning. If you know that you wake up slowly in the morning and you want to work out, you want to drink your tea, you want to read a book, protect your time, make it protected. Nothing gets in the way of that.
Right.
Yeah, I really like that one. I think I need to do more of that.
No, I used to do that, but now I have to catch the bus. Can't do that. If I
No,
have to
too
get up at
much.
4 a.m., then I don't know if I
Oh,
can do that.
yeah, no, that's too early. We don't need to do that. You
Yeah.
could, but you don't need to do that. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. The second to last tip is delegation. So he talks about how um, if there's anything that you don't enjoy, especially when your time is better spent elsewhere. And in his words, he says something along the lines of, when the task is going to be a less value than your dollar value, which I don't love the phrasing of that. But
Mm-hmm.
basically, he's saying, like, if you see your value in like your content creation or your work style or like the things that you provide being at like, I don't know, $25 an hour, like whatever it is, for like little tedious tasks, it's okay to just delegate. You don't have to do
Yeah.
everything. So I agree with that aspect. Trying to figure out if this is like what you're worth and not worth. I don't love the phrasing of that. But
Mm-hmm.
the idea is essentially where you can delegate, you have the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to delegate.
Important.
And the last one, are
Letting
you ready
go.
for the very last one?
Yes.
Okay. The last tip he talks about is choose to be satisfied.
Mm.
So what he's saying basically is, at the end of your day, there's always going to be maybe a tiny feeling of, oh, I could have done more. I only did like 3 of these things. I could have done 2 more tasks. I could have
Yeah.
done this. I could have done that. There's always going to be more you can do, but that's not going to change the fact that you didn't get it done. It's just going to make you
Mm-hmm.
feel, kind of shitty. You're going to be kind of mean to yourself. So instead of doing that, just choose to be satisfied. Whatever you did get done, just be like, yes, I got that done. I'm so glad I got my daily highlight done. And maybe a couple extra things other than that. And then
Yeah.
just let it go. Let it go. As you said earlier, right? In a previous podcast, let that thought, put it on a leaf, let it flow away in the stream.
Yeah. Let it go.
Let it go. Yeah, so those were the two videos that I especially really liked. I think I said earlier I was going to talk about three. So I'll just say quickly, the third one was by Carl Pauline, I think. Might be butchering that
Mm-hmm.
last name. But basically, Carl is a time management productivity content creator as well on YouTube. And
Mm-hmm.
his video just kind of demonstrated how to time block. But I already kind
Okay.
of talked about it, time blocking around, your quality time, your exercise, your TV
Mm-hmm.
time, your hobbies, your house maintenance and stuff,
Yeah.
nighttime routines, anything and anything that you have in a day, go ahead and time block it. Make space for
Yeah,
it.
that sounds helpful. It's cool that these
Mm-hmm.
like content creators are giving such tangible and useful tips and strategies
Mm-hmm.
on how we can apply that in our own lives. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that is the educational portion of this
Okay.
podcast.
Okay.
Now I want to move on towards how this shows up in South Asian communities.
Okay.
Can you guess maybe at least one of the things where I'm going with this, Michelle?
Procrastination for sure, at least in my family. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
going to talk about it in my story.
I can't
But
wait to hear.
I think, yeah, procrastination or like not that much great time management skills.
Mm-hmm. You would be right. In particular, what I'm talking about here, how time management shows up in our South Asian culture is our Desi Standard Time.
Ooh, DST.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I grew up hearing Indian Standard Time or Indian
Yeah.
Stretchable Time is like the
Mhm.
apparent other term for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, the idea being that as South Asians, as Desis, we tend to show up late to a lot of things. We're very
Mhm. Mhm.
fluid with our concept of
Mhm.
time. Most of us, not
Mhm.
everybody.
Yeah.
Not everybody. But definitely most of us. It is
Yeah.
definitely a cultural thing.
I mean, definitely, there's like a name for it, right? They see standard time.
Exactly. Exactly. I found an article, like a personal blog type article by Angela
Okay.
Carson, who is a American expat who has lived and worked in India for a brief time, and just kind of is in the Southeast Asia countries and living and working and touring and like just kind of living her life. And she wrote an article called "IST Means Always Being Late."
Mhm.
And some of the things that she talks about in the article, I want to highlight specific sentences that she talks about. These are her quotes. She said, "I often marvel at the efficiency and speed at which Indians can create, produce, or turn some things around. From processing my permits and employment visa, to sewing and tailoring a closet full of clothes, to developing software in the flash of an eye and hiring thousands of new staff members for a recent outsourcing project. Speedy, speedy, speedy. But then I sit back and wonder, how in the heck is so much being done so quickly when it seems like everyone is always running late?" Which is the real, puzzling dichotomy, right? The idea that
Yeah.
when we need to get things done, hell yeah, we're going to get it done.
Yeah.
But we do have this very
Take our
fluidity of
time.
like, is this a priority? Nah, I'm going to take my time. I don't need to be there.
Yeah.
Which, again, like just continues to prove this concept of like procrastination. Procrastinators are capable of getting things done, but that skill, that muscle of time
Mhm.
management is just not built. It's not
Right.
learned. It's not
Yeah.
practiced, but they are capable of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so I'm going to read a couple more of the things that she talks about in her article. But there are two things. One, time management, and two, as a part of time management, there is an extra piece here, a delightful piece that I uncovered, and I'm not going to say what it is until afterward, and
Okay.
I'm going to see if you can guess what it is, okay?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, here we go. So for the general time management piece of it all, she goes on in her article to say, so why then are so many Indians running late? The top excuse, at least at work, is I was stuck in traffic. Definitely heard
Mm.
that one before. And she says, one friend of mine has never been on time and his excuses are always varied. But I think the underlying reason is that he would actually really like to arrive at the prearranged time, but then he continues to take calls, be on social media. So instead of
Mm,
disconnecting in order to get ready and leave the house on time, he does all these other things.
mm,
And then he's late. His issue is simply time management, and also, ever so slightly, living in a fantasy world where his arrival time in his head is X, but in the real world, it never is. At least I've never once seen him arrive on time.
mm.
We all be living in our Delulu world, thinking
Delulu.
we're going to get there on time. But nope. Okay, this next snippet, this is the thing that I was like, oh my God, how did I not know this before?
Okay,
Catch what it is if you can. This is what
I'm
the
ready.
excerpt was. One thing I know for a fact is that Indians do not wish to disappoint people and therefore are not always straightforward
Mm-hmm,
and will often say what they think someone wants to hear instead of the truth.
mm-hmm,
With
mm-hmm,
that in mind, there's an additional facet to being late that really cracks me up at times, and honestly, I've never witnessed it anywhere else before living here. On a multitude of occasions, I have witnessed friends pick up a call and end up saying something like, yeah, sure, I'll be there in 15 minutes. When my mate hangs up, I'll look over and ask, where are you going? And they'll reply, I'm not going anywhere. Sorry, what? Apparently, some other friends have called to make a plan with them, and my mate simply felt it is easiest to say that he or she is on their way than say they don't want to go and they're not coming. I haven't
mm,
fully understood it yet, but it happens all the time. So again, it appears to be an accepted practice because no one seems to flip out the way I would if it happened to me. And I was waiting and waiting for someone to arrive.
mm.
Thoughts? What do you think this
Fear of
is reminiscent of?
disappointment. Fear of disappointment. People pleasing. Ding,
I
ding,
know.
ding. I have it written
Exactly.
down in my
Ding, ding,
story
ding.
too.
That really blew me away. I've never considered that time management can also sometimes be wrapped up
Hmm.
in this people pleasing.
Yeah, I discovered it while
Blew my
writing my own
mind.
story. Hmm.
I cannot wait to hear what your story is because that blew my
Yeah,
mind. And I need to
it is.
think about that. But yeah, wow.
Yeah, it makes sense though, like the
Yeah.
connection. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever, I don't think it happens much maybe like here in America. I don't think it happens like that, but
Hmm.
maybe like back home, like have you ever heard people do something like that? Say like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally
No, I
coming," and then
haven't
not.
personally experienced
You haven't
that.
experienced that?
Yeah. I
Interesting.
do I do sometimes see parents or like family members wait till last minute to say no. Like they'll go back and forth and they'll wait till
Yeah,
last
yeah.
minute to say no to something, which is a
Yeah,
little bit related to this, right? Like they're
until
not
they're
gonna,
cornered to make a decision. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah. That makes sense. I've witnessed this actually. I don't know if this is a South Asian thing or if this is an Indian thing, but I've definitely
Mm-hmm.
witnessed this in India for sure. I-
Interesting.
I've had cousins, like older, like male cousins, who used to be like, yeah, I'm coming. I'm going to be there in 10 minutes in front of the house to pick you up. And they were with me like an hour away. And I was like, how the hell are you going to be there in 10 minutes?
Wow. That's crazy
And
that you witnessed that firsthand.
well, in his case, he does intend to go pick them up. It's not like he's, flaking, but it's just the
Hmm.
concept of like the
Not 10 minutes.
time.
Yeah.
It I don't know, like that honestly, like the author of this article, that would have driven me literally insane. I would be like, where the hell
Hmm.
are you? But it's
Hmm.
expected, I think. Like some people just it's
Yeah.
it's such a norm. I don't know if it's expected, but it's a norm.
Yeah. It's accepted.
Yeah, it's accepted.
Yeah.
And I've definitely seen most of my family members like know when he says he's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They really do know like he probably hasn't even left
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
has no plans to
It's like
yet.
normalized. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows that he's full of it. um, I also wanted to talk about one other article that I found
Okay.
about this like discrepancy of like why do Desis have this like Desi standard time that's so
Yeah.
like on their own terms and all of that. And I found an article written by Yelena Mravovich, and her article was on the perception of time in different cultures.
Okay.
She quoted a psychologist, Robert Robert Levine, who analyzed
Mm-hmm.
different cultures and their attitudes towards time. So he found out that the more economically developed countries, like USA, Germany, or Japan, are more fast paced. That is to
Mm-hmm.
say, they greatly value time because time is money.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I see that is like it's kind of more running like a corporation. They're thinking of
Business.
like businessy mindset. Yeah.
Western world.
Yeah. But on the other hand, Robert Levine also recognized that countries with poorly developed economies or slower paced economies, for example, cultures such as the Middle East, Latin America, or Eastern Europe, nurture a more relaxed attitude towards time. They're more
Mm,
family and social oriented.
interesting.
Mm-hmm. But he does go on to say, like, there are obviously exceptions to that. For example, Japan, well, they do run fast paced and do see time as like highly valued and like punctuality being
Mm-hmm.
valued. They also are very family and socially oriented. So there are
Yeah.
obviously exceptions, but generally speaking, these seem to be the themes for this
Mm-hmm.
like Desi Standard Time, or just basically it's not exclusive to Desis, but like the slower pace of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so he does, also end his article, or she ends the article by saying there is no right or wrong in the way that we use
Mm-hmm.
time. Each
Mm-hmm.
time perspective has its advantages and disadvantages and is inherent to specific cultures and their
Mm,
values.
yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Hmm.
But I'm not surprised by like, you know, South Asian communities valuing family that's related to time management, like family less time. Like, I mean, just think about it, right? Like, even just like during gatherings when like it's time to go, like they're taking their time. Like, they go get up from the couch, walk to the
Yeah.
door, have a few more conversations, walk outside,
Yeah.
have
A
more
couple more out
conversations.
there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Get in the
you
car, a
know.
couple more in the car. Definitely. Exactly. I also did find a website that kind of highlighted what this looks like with some of the countries. Do you want to know?
Yeah, I want to hear about
Okay, so on this website called whatisculture.org, they
it. Okay.
break it down in this picture of like, so I'm looking at it and it's basically on the one hand of the spectrum, it's linear time. So linear
Mm-hmm.
time being punctuality is emphasized. And then on the other hand of that spectrum is flexible time,
Mm.
where we're looking more at like basic standard time stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So all the way
So
on linear
spectrum.
time, you've got Germany, Switzerland, Japan, Sweden, Netherlands, US, Denmark, UK.
Okay. The Western world.
Some, yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle though, you've got like Poland, Czech Republic, France,
Okay.
Spain, Italy, Russia, Mexico, Brazil,
Okay.
and Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And on this side, the other side, the flexible side, we've got China, Saudi Arabia, India, Nigeria, Kenya. These are just a couple of countries. I'm sure there are a lot more that,
Yeah. Like
fall
more
obviously fall within
family-oriented
this.
cultures. Yeah.
Yeah. But as an example, that's what it looks like.
I like that.
I
I like how you explain it like a spectrum, right? Like
Yeah.
not just like one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
like that was kind of cool to see too because obviously like I've heard of, Spain and Italy taking a little bit longer lunches and like a little bit more laid back when they go into work, and
Yeah.
granted what I know about France is just what I know about Emily in Paris.
Same. Well,
The work
actually, I
culture from that.
visited. Yeah, but
Well, I mean, I don't remember focusing on their work culture when I visited just for
that's
as
true.
a touristiness, though. I,
That's true.
I
That's
only
true.
know what I know from Emily in Paris. So if it's
Emily in
not
Paris.
accurate, I'm not being accurate here. But, in those examples, though, they do talk about like, oh, you go
Mm-hmm.
into work a little bit later. You're not like 8 a.m. to 5. Maybe you like
Mm-hmm.
roll in 9:30ish. Maybe you take an hour and a half lunch and you don't actually work through lunch. You really take that lunch. So it's interesting to see that was still kind of in the middle-ish, but Saudi Arabia, India, Nigeria, Kenya, and like other countries are like flexible time,
Yeah.
even more than that. That's my research. What do you think?
Okay.
Anything surprise you?
No, but they like I didn't even like when I was thinking about time management and South Asian. culture. I didn't even think of DST. Like, I'm glad you pointed that out. Basic standard
Yeah,
time is such a big one.
it is.
Um, but no, like I'm not really surprised, honestly. Just and the
Mm,
tips and tricks were really helpful for me too. Like I feel like I could take it with me and apply it to what I do.
yeah, I
Hmm.
know. I hope everybody took notes because, like, I definitely took notes when I watched those videos like 2 times.
Yeah,
And I
that's
showed my
good.
family
Thank you
my
for
notes, and they were
sharing.
like, "Wow, you're finally learning time management." I was like, "I don't need
Yeah.
this. I need support. I don't
And
need
this is
this."
not
Bye.
a like easy topic to connect to the South Asian culture and stuff. Like you did a really good job with your research. Like,
Oh, thank you. It
yeah,
was a bit
I'm
of a
proud of you.
struggle. There wasn't a
Yeah,
direct linear correlation.
yes,
Had to dig.
yes, yeah. But it was a good one. The good connections you made and good connections you
Mm,
found.
yeah, thank you, Michelle. Okay, well, you ready for my story?
Yes, I'm ready.
As you must have clearly gathered based on my presentation today, I did not have, good management skills growing up. I was definitely one of those kids that had very poor time management skills, and I very
Mhm,
much did things at my own pace.
mhm,
Definitely did not like being rushed or anything that had, like,
mhm.
you know, time imposed on me. Do this right now by then. And it's like, nah. um, for example, with like cooking, I mean, I'm sure you know, I don't really cook. I'm learning how to cook now. But one of the
Yeah,
things why I didn't learn to cook, I mean, one, obviously, my parents were always about like, you don't need to do anything that's not studying. But other than that, my mom was, she was a very busy, employee, and like she was a manager.
hmm,
She did a lot of things, throughout her career, and she was always very busy and like hardworking and like hustling. And still, she made time to like obviously cook for us. So she in the kitchen, she was
yeah,
always about like quick, 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 got to do this, got to do that. I have no idea how she made things so fast and so delicious because I
yeah.
I make things fast. They're like crappy. But anyways,
I'm sure it's not crappy.
oh girl, there's a reason I haven't fed you my food. But in the kitchen, like my mom was very much in that mode of like I got to get things done so I can answer a few more emails. I need to
Hmm,
do this. I need to do that.
hmm,
And like I said, I don't really do well with being rushed, and I didn't know how to cook well. So I
mm,
would like take my time. I wanted to help her, and I would like cut and like do it slow. And she'd be like, "Okay, okay, okay, hurry up!" And then she'd shove me aside and then do it really, really fast, and then like toss
yeah.
things in. To give you an idea, this isn't really time management skills, but like this is an example of how like I never had a lot of opportunities to practice,
Hmm,
and I didn't take those on what did exist.
yeah.
Um, Another example of that like really stuck out to me when I was thinking about my story is I would consistently, and this is not just as a kid, this very much happened like early this year, even. I would
Oh,
consistently miscalculate how long it would take me to get ready and to travel to said
oh,
destination.
mm.
Biggest
I'm
struggle.
guilty of that too. I'm guilty
Biggest
of that
struggle.
too.
Yeah. It's hard. Sometimes
It
you
is
just don't
hard.
know. I'm sorry. I need some time and I don't know what I want to do to get ready. I don't want to do I want this dress? Do
Yeah,
I wear that dress? What jewelry do I want to wear? I don't know. It takes
yeah,
time.
yeah, it does.
Yeah. But funnily enough, I guess thankfully my tardiness, my lack of management skills with time didn't really apply as much to school. The
Right.
only way it did apply to school was my procrastination, basically,
Hmm.
which is still a big one, but it didn't affect me too adversely, basically, in school.
That's good.
Um, but in life, socially, yeah, maybe a little bit. Not always on time, not always showing up.
Yeah.
Um, and I did see this kind of like like laid back laissez-faire attitude with my dad as well, and I think that's why I've never really saw it as like it's a problem. I was like, well, like it's fine, like dad's like this too, oh
Hmm.
well.
Yeah. Modeled.
um
Yeah.
yeah, and mom is kind of sometimes like that, sometimes very much like go 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 go, I'm ready, let's go kind of a
Hmm.
thing, all over the place. I don't know, but I'm very much like dad in that way. And it's funny that I ended up with a partner who's the exact opposite of me. As you know, Ali is very crazy punctual,
Yeah.
as are his parents. Um,
Hmm.
so it was a very interesting experience the first time we all, the six of us, went on a trip together, because they would be like up and at 'em. They're like early risers. We're late, out like evening
Yeah.
owls. So they would wake up early and like get ready and like be ready to go at the said time. Actually, no, correction, before the said time that we agreed on. And we're still like kind of
Wow.
scrambling in like 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, like slowly all of us are just like, okay, I'm ready, I'm almost ready. The
Yeah.
dichotomy of that was just, it was a
Yeah.
lot to take in. Just be like,
Different.
very different.
Yeah. But it also shows that, it's not every South Asian family it matches the generalization.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a
But
very,
both experiences are there.
the generalization is a majority, I would still say.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's not
And
everybody for sure.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which just means that, for our listeners in desi places, it's possible, guys. We can do it if we want
We
to.
can. We
If we
can.
want to. Something really funny I wanted to share actually about this dichotomy between my time management skills and Adi's time management skills and like our families. During our wedding at the like Sangeet or the Mehndi events, when we were just like having fun, there
Hmm.
wasn't like a specific auspicious time to like do rituals or anything. This was just fun party stuff. His family were literally dressed and ready to go at the venue, ready to party at the said time. I
Wow.
was still getting ready. I hadn't even started going over yet. And literally, they
Wow.
told me afterwards when we got there, they were like, I was so confused. I was here and I was like, nobody's here. Is the party over? I was like, no, you guys are just really early. Like, everybody else is Desi Standard Time, you guys.
Yeah.
It was just so funny, but it really brought
That
out
is
that idea
funny.
of like, oh my God, he was like ready to go at each and every single event with his parents, like ready to go. And I was just like
Hmm.
lagging behind. But to be fair, he had to just wear, the Kadium, like all of his stuff. Super easy. You just gotta put them on. What you gonna do?
Yeah.
I had to wake up like 3-4 hours early, get my makeup, get my hair done. I'm allowed. In that one case, I'm allowed my lateness.
Yes, you are allowed.
I was allowed. It was just so funny though. I was just like, wow, yeah, I could see my life now. Always
That's
running behind.
okay.
Wait for
It was modeled for you, right? It was not your fault. This is how you
me.
were raised too, in a way.
Yeah. It was very normal. That was what was kind of
Yeah.
expected.
There
Yeah.
you go.
And I am sure you remember I showed up late to your engagement.
I like how you're announcing it to the whole world.
Yes, world, I showed up late to my bestie's engagement. It was
It's okay.
embarrassing. The
It's
ceremony
okay.
was just done. Everybody was like settling in to like say hi to you as you walked around the tables, and we walked in, everybody was like, "Who's that? Why are they so late?"
No, it's
I will
okay.
never forget that moment. And Adi won't let me forget it even if I wanted. He's still like,
I feel
yeah,
like he
I
still
was late because of
mentions it.
you. I know. Oh my goodness. But
It's okay. It happens.
exactly. It happens. It's
Yes.
fine.
My own family members were late for the engagement, so it's
I don't think anyone was as late as me, but I'll take it. I'll
fine.
take your attempt to console
Yes.
me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so while all those instances are hilarious now, in the moment, there were definitely, I think, at least some of these things, particularly being late
Yeah.
to your or your engagement, like things like that. Those moments are definitely a little bit of a friction point because he is so tardy and like he's really, I'm not sorry, not tardy, on time, like he's punctual, and like it's
Hmm.
just such a ingrained habit and value for him. It like really frustrated him to
Hmm.
no end that I wasn't like that. And it frustrated
Hmm.
me that he was so darn punctual. I was like, be a little late, it's fine,
Yeah.
be chill.
Yeah.
But we've since kind of wiggled our way to the middle. He gives me some space, a little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah.
I gotten better with all of this time management skills I've been working on from all these videos that I just talked about. So take notes, you guys.
Yes. They're
um,
fruitful, I
but
bet.
yeah,
It seems like.
exactly. And like
Yeah.
I think the turning point really was like recognizing like for the longest time I just thought like, yeah, this is just like the way I am. Like if there's no big deal, there's nothing wrong
Hmm.
with that. And like there isn't anything wrong with it. But for the longest time I wanted to be more punctual. I just didn't know how.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
So
You weren't taught.
when I realized time management was a skill, that you can build, just like you can work out your muscles and
Right.
practice and practice and practice. That's what I've been doing.
Nice.
So hopefully by maybe next year, let's aim for next year, I will get to a place where I feel a little bit better, but I'm working on it.
There you go.
Circle back.
Progress
I'll
over
tell you how it
perfection.
goes.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my story.
Okay. Wow.
I'm ready to hear yours.
I know, I feel like my story aligns a little bit with you, but then also like it's very different from yours. I think like I'm interested to hear your thoughts about it.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like also like procrastination was modeled for me too by my parents growing up. Um, like for any event that my parents were
Mm-hmm.
hosting that required time and effort to prepare, like my parents would wait
Yeah.
until last day or the day, like, the day of or the day before, or like 2 days before to prepare. Like for
Mm-hmm.
example, my sister and I were lucky enough to like have birthday celebrations every year growing up with family and friends. And on multiple occasions, my dad would bring in like the food or the cake, like after the guests had already arrived, you know? Like it's true. Or like
Yeah.
when we're invited to events, like they see Center Time would be there too. Like we would
Yeah.
show up really, really late, like an hour and a half late, 2 hours late sometimes. And so
Mm-hmm.
our close family members actually started giving us like an earlier time invite
Mm.
than like the rest of the guests to like make sure that my family comes on
Yeah.
time. And there was one time that I think I was just older and I wanted to be more punctual, so I like had my parents like get ready, try to get there on time. So we did get somewhere one person's house, like my cousin's house on time, and they were like still in their home clothes and they're like, "We thought you were gonna be like your own late time. We didn't mean to give you this time."
Oh
And I think
no.
that's what we figured out, like, oh, you guys are giving us earlier times than others.
Yeah. Like, oh, sneaky. I see what you did.
Right, right. And I definitely picked up on this too when I growing up.
Mm.
Um, right, the same thing. Like it was modeled for me. It was normalized. That's all I knew, right? Like, oh, it's okay to be lax. It's okay to take your time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it led to me actually being more stressed in these types of situations, like time management related situations, and I needed to. Like for me, like you know how you mentioned like yours was like you don't like to be rushed,
Yeah.
right? Or like, like that was kind of thing that you were dealing with. For me, it was more like time management was causing anxiety. Like I was feeling
Mm-hmm.
so overwhelmed with everything that I had to do. I would just like freeze. And I sometimes do. That would be my
Mm-hmm.
response. And then I would
Yeah.
procrastinate. Like the freezing would lead to procrastination.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so, when in school, like even senior year of high school, like in AP classes, I would pull all-nighters. Like I would fall asleep on the ground with my dog, like because I would be so tired
Mm.
to even go to bed, right? Like
Yeah.
after doing a lot of work. Um, and like I don't remember like the rest of my extended family being like this. I think it was just more to my parents. I mean, everybody has some
Mm.
sort of DST, like basic dinner time, but like I feel like my parents were a little more on uh, like the lax side of the spectrum that we talked about. Um,
Yeah.
so once I moved out for undergrad, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that was like when my time management was more tested, right? Like I was around a different environment,
Mm.
around other people that were more punctual. Like my roommate, she was more punctual. I was pre-med for a little bit, and for one of my lab courses, I would wait until the last night to write my lab reports.
Mm.
And Sleepy Michelle did not like that. Like I would always get really tired at night. I would try to stay up and I would keep falling
Yeah.
asleep. Like one time I failed so hard at staying awake that I didn't start working on it until like 5 a.m. and it was due at 8 a.m. Like I
Oh
would
no.
print it and like run across campus to go turn it in. But I think like these types of situations would make me realize like, okay, I need to be better about this. Or
Mm.
so like in adulthood too, like I feel like procrastination would also catch up to me. Living on my own, managing my own expenses, like it helped me realize like how much capacity I have, how much time I have really to like spread out and do other things. And going back to like the concept of time management, and people pleasing, right? When we talked about the tendencies,
Mm.
I think my time management skills were poor to begin with and continue to be poor until I realized and made that, like, had that awareness was because I was signing up for more things and saying yes to different commitments and more than I could
Mm.
handle. Um,
Yeah.
So it was like that people pleasing tendency was feeding my poor time management, and it was a
Yeah.
cycle. Like it just kept on going.
Yeah.
Um, and
You could have read that book, The Hell Yeah or No.
right, right. Um, but yeah, like I think for like I think after like just reflecting, thinking about my story, just reflecting through time too. I feel like my dad, out of the two parents, my mom or my dad was definitely
Mm,
the more of the one that was more on the lax side. He would also model the people
really?
pleasing and signing up for
Mm,
way more things than he could handle.
really, yeah.
Um, and so now I'm working on undoing it, and those tips are really helpful. I'm gonna look into those videos and those books. Um,
Yes.
so recently, I just started something new. I used to do
Mm,
all my like house chores and tasks, like meal prep, clean, laundry, everything on Sundays. But then I've
hmm.
like, you know, that felt like that for the longest time I felt really stressed all weekend thinking about it, or like,
Yeah.
overwhelmed. Like I need to make sure I have time for that.
Yeah.
So recently I started switching that to Saturday morning. So like as soon as
Oh.
I work out and eat breakfast, like I get my laundry done. I get my pick up my grocery, I get my meal prep
Hmm.
done. And Saturday, like by 4 p.m. or 3 p.m., I'm like done. And I have the rest of the weekend to just like relax and avoid the Sunday scaries. And so far it's been so helpful. So I'm like
Yay.
blocking time. I guess that's one way of time blocking.
I love it.
Um, yeah.
You
So
are killing
that
it.
was
High
my, I
five.
know today was a little short story, but that was kind of my sharing. Thank you.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, time management is just one of those things, right? Like, very clearly affects a lot of us. But at a certain point, it all comes down to the same thing. We be procrastinating, we be people
Mm,
pleasing, and at a certain point, we just gotta, kind of like roll up our sleeves and be like, you know what, this is working. No, this is stressing me out. I want to
right.
do something. We gotta like
Yeah.
just build those skills.
Yeah. And I really like how we like talked about how like reduce, right? Like time management is it's more quality skill. Like it becomes more of a quality skill when you reduce, right? And when you're more intentional.
Yeah,
And I feel like
exactly.
even small things like me moving off this couch and going to bed, like I've shared this with you. Like it's just such a big sometimes can be so hard for
Yeah,
me because I'm just so
yeah.
tired and overwhelmed. I'm done for the
Mm,
day. And like I haven't done this lately, but like in the past I used to fall asleep on the couch a lot because again, I think
mm-hmm.
I talked to my therapist about this too. I think I
Mm,
would be stuck in that freeze mode. Like I would be so
yeah,
overwhelmed, like, oh, I have to get up, I have to
yeah,
brush my teeth, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this. And I just keep thinking about it and keep procrastinating,
yeah,
like we talked about, like being stuck in
exactly.
that thought process. And I would just be
Yeah.
frozen until I fall asleep. And the
Mm,
next thing I know, it's like 1 a.m. And I'm like, oh
yeah.
shoot, I need to be in bed.
Yeah,
um,
exactly. It really shows up in a lot of ways, doesn't it? Like, really
it
sneaks
does,
up on
it
you.
does. And it is related to mental health. It
Mm-hmm.
is related to mental health. Um,
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh,
So,
for sure, because, we're talking about like the people pleasing, we're talking about the need to have these like boundaries, we're talking about combating some of these like all or nothing thoughts and like perfectionistic tendencies we have of like it has to look like this and like that's a part of the reduce. So we
mhm.
might not have really like highlighted too much of that mental health side of all of this and how that plays out, but it really does affect our mental health, our time management
It
skills
does.
for sure.
It does.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Alrighty, shall we wrap up then?
Yes. Do you want me to wrap it
A
up?
nice long session, or a session. I'm like
Yeah.
stuck in therapy mode. A
Session.
nice long
Episode.
episode.
Podcast episode. All right,
Exactly.
all of our listeners, we would love to hear your tell us your stories about time management or your thoughts. What you thought about our stories. What do you think about DC Standard Time? We would love
Mm-hmm.
to hear your thoughts. So you can reach us by email, talksapasiantome@gmail.com, or you can DM us on any social media. Our handle is at talksapasiantome.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.